March 3rd, wow, a year ago, got a phone call about 2 o'clock in the morning from my daughter saying, Mom, it's been a tornado.
You know, the news wasn't catching up, so we went to bed, not really knowing what had happened in Nashville.
Getting to her place in Germantown and finding out she's okay. She's lost everything. But then immediately after I know she's okay, I go into work mode. And from there we hit the ground. We're walking the streets, making sure everybody's okay. Ended up in Lee Chapel with Representative Love, and that's where the hub was for just a few days. And then from there, the mayor's office actually put together disaster centers in Hermitage, East Nashville, and North Nashville. We just worked it every day, 7 days a week.
It was the triaging of community members that was very important. You know, making sure that folks had candles because the electricity was out for days. Now, mind you, that Magruder did not have electricity, right? So we were working by daylight. We had to kick in to a mode of at all cost. We were able to come together with several organizations and we banded together to make sure that the community had what it needed. We didn't wait on permission from anyone to help our neighbor. It was a duty.
You know, we're a small organization. We, at that moment, had a staff of 1, myself, and we just opened the gates. We just opened the gates and said, we're gonna do what we do, which is take in donations to help other people. Those people that showed up in the first 5 hours became heroes in a lot of ways because they set us up for success over time in what we were doing.
The first real opportunity that Hands On Nashville led volunteers was that first weekend. Lee Chapel in North Nashville had organically set up a distribution center to hand out supplies for people that needed them. That was not happening anywhere in the Hermitage area. Reverend Love introduced me to Pastor Bree, who pastors Mount Gilead Church in Hermitage. Said, hey, we don't have anything like this. So that first weekend, we put out a call for volunteers to go set up a distribution site for people in the Donaldson Hermitage area. We had hundreds of people sign up over that Saturday and Sunday to come put this distribution center together.
The situations varied. It's like any disaster, no disaster is the same and neither is a survivor. Each survivor is different, and just as you think you may have a grasp on what the need is and everything, a new situation arises.
So March 3rd happened, and 2 weeks later, we began to know more than what we wanted to know about COVID-19. And then we're sheltering in place, you know, before you know it. And that slowed down recovery tremendously. So this journey has been one of ups and downs, but then also we're fighting on every hand.
And I keep going back to North Nashville because I think that was the most vulnerable community. It was really a struggle for them to actually figure out who to trust. You know, yes, they wanted the basic necessities. They wanted the food and the clothing and that type of thing. But initially, they were not sure. You were just trying to get in to take their homes.
One of the biggest factors is trust and people's fears. There's been times when they or others have been taken advantage of in some way, and they know that. And so there's a reluctance to be maybe open or forthcoming about their situation until there's some kind of relationship established. I think that kind of trust building, that local communities that have in the past maybe not had as much trust of outsiders or others, that people who live in those communities are a crucial part of helping build those relationships and establishing the trust that goes on. So I think the relational part of this and also the patient persistent part of the work is essential as well for people to realize that this can't be done overnight, but it takes a sustained period of time and effort to do it.
Absolutely, you could sense where survivors were feeling absolutely forgotten because the new headline was COVID. And so it was imperative in our work as case managers working with survivors to let them know they are not forgotten. There's a whole community out here who are coming together to provide resources and wrap their arms around them with everything available in order to meet them where they're at and help them fill that gap that they have.
COVID-19 has really affected the long-term recovery, not so much for the Community Foundation, but for other organizations that depend on strong and robust volunteers. They really have been challenged to find those volunteers to execute on projects like the repair, like the cleanup, any of those other hands-on activities. And so where we've come in to really try to support and bolster that work is providing grants for contractors in places where volunteers would be normally doing that kind of work.
Westminster Home Connection was asked to be the construction convener for the long-term recovery group, both in Davidson and Wilson County. Knowing the financial backing that the community has done with so many agencies to then pull those resources together to meet that individual family's need to make them whole. I mean, the emotional side of that, the emotional stress of that, and seeing their relief, and then just the joy to see their home coming back together when they at some point thought there would be no way that they could ever recover.
It's really always so much more than being about the money. So an example of that is I'm part of a group that addresses unmet needs. So families maybe didn't get FEMA money or they didn't have insurance to do the repair and rebuild on their home. And so on a weekly basis, this group comes together, and there are probably a handful of us, and we hear about cases that need additional money. And what we've said from the get-go is we don't really want just one of us to contribute to that. We want all of the people to come together and contribute to that, because so many times that's so much more than the money, that when a disaster case manager tells a survivor that we've got your project funded, there are 2 churches and the Community Foundation and Westminster Home Connection and this other group that have come together, so that people know that it's an entire community that's caring and coming together on their behalf.
The VOAD structure that was created after this tornado, that being able to utilize various resources, be they government, be they private, be they nonprofit, to be able to bring all those resources together, the different expertise and talents, is crucial in our experience of how these agencies have come together and worked, building the friendships that will be long lasting beyond this. But specifically having a group of volunteer organizations to assist in disaster that are on standby and have a sense of their role that they would play in complementing and collaborating with other agencies if and when something else happens is absolutely essential.
Disaster work is not easy. It's long, it's tedious, a tedious journey, but we're still on it. For some people, the work is just now starting. They haven't been able to come back home in a year. You know, some people may not have even survived to see the 1-year anniversary. And we know that. We acknowledge it, we honor it, and we have committed ourselves to walking alongside the community on this hard journey. What you don't want is to face something this huge by yourself. And that has been our message. You're not by yourself. You are not alone. You have people who care for you, you know, a whole community that cares for you, different organizations, folk who are working on your behalf, even when you don't know it, even when you don't see it, even when you don't feel it. People are working on your behalf.
You know, I think it's important that we understand that this is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And with that being said, I think we have to understand that it's going to take a little bit of time to get you to where you were. I just say be patient, it's coming.
What I would say to anyone out there that's still trying to get through this is that resources still exist for you. You know, reach out, let us know you're there, and we will figure out how to help you recover. I mean, that is the whole purpose of the long-term recovery group, and that is what we're there for.